Well, it's Monday the 25th of March, 11:45 in the morning, and I'm waiting to catch my flight to Frankfurt from Manchester Airport. I'm completely out of cash, having been pulverised by the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church since they shut me up and withdrew from me in 2017 when I had a lovely family, was worth some £10 million, but they brought legal cases after legal cases after legal cases against me to run me out of money, turn me into a criminal, and save themselves from the threat of having the truth exposed about their situation. I'm glad to say that the truth is coming out now. There was an article on the front page of the Sydney Morning Herald on Saturday, 2 days ago, which is the result of a lot of hard work behind the scenes. But right now I've left my home, walked up to the station at Silkstone Common, up a long hill, and I couldn't afford a taxi, 2 big cases, and I'm quite shocked that people these days are so busy doing their thing, making money, that they don't stop and offer people a lift. I suppose it's safer not to offer people a lift, not to turn aside and help. Nevertheless, that's pretty much the money-driven world we're in. It's turning very robotic. But I'm thinking that we need warriors who are prepared to stand up for the truth, stand up for rights, stand up for the oppressed, give a voice to the voiceless. And I think we need to understand that the poor, the lowly, the rank and file in organisations, including the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church, are struggling. Those they excommunicate are struggling. When I came back from Sydney after 5 months, last October, I again was completely out of money. I was quite ill in Dubai, had to walk to a hospital, but because they were going to charge me £150 to even look at me, I had to just walk back with my case in the searing heat and suffer. So the brethren want you to suffer if you're not licking the boots of the hierarchy, if you're asking questions. And they withdraw from you for no good reason. But I would just like to say that I'm starting a business now. I'm having to start businesses to make money because I had my money taken away from me by the Plymouth Brethren Christian Church under the guise of my family. I don't think for a minute that my wife and my sons wanted to ever send me to the dogs. But if the leader, who's a nasty man, Bruce Hales from Sydney, wants to cast me to the dogs, so that I wake up one morning in the gutter and cry out his name and ask for mercy, so I can go back there and be a little submissive to him for the rest of my life, he will be happy and he might give me some money back. But he's not prepared to let me be free, let me live my own life, so he has to destroy me. And that is not according to the moral principles of righteousness that we were taught to adhere to in the church. Righteousness is our leader. And we used to have readings on what's moral. Well, this is immoral. I've just been speaking to a couple in the lounge who are from Lancaster, and the friend of the girl works at Havwoods, Wiley's. Well, last time I was at Lancaster for a reading, I arrived a bit late, tortuous route from Leeds to Lancaster, and Oliver was in full flow on the need for moral conformity and moral this and moral that and repentance. This young lady tells me that her friend has just had a baby. So she's tried to renegotiate terms with the Wileys at Havwoods, and she's prepared to manage her own affairs so that she gets in at 8 o'clock in the morning. The Wiley says, no, that's not good enough, you've got to be in at 7:30. My heart bleeds for her, that's her first child. And this worries me that the Brethren have no consideration for family. Family is more important than business. And one thing that I have in mind on this trip is to make myself available to businesses in Australia and New Zealand so that they are taken out of Hales' control, and I believe Havwoods are very much in the Hales' control. I bumped into a super showroom they've got in Sydney, and they've been working very, very closely with Bruce Hales. I'm saying get out of their control and come under family control. The Wileys should make their own decisions without references to the Haleses. I say they should cut their ties with the Haleses. It's a good business. We want to preserve the business. We want to preserve the staff, but be kind and understand the feelings of staff, especially when there are children involved. Just be kind. The Brethren have turned into a money-making organisation. And I think they've taken advantage of a submissive state. So this young lady, she won't feel strong after having had a baby. She won't feel like negotiating hard. So she'll tend to just accept, well, if I can't come in for 8, I'll lose my job. I've told her to go to the media. I've told her to go and speak to Oliver via this friend of hers and make a stink and say, look, this isn't fair. You're discriminating against me because I've had a child. And the hours that people have to work in these Brethren businesses is amazing. So let's stop taking advantage. The issue in 1965 in Sydney, when the Hales brothers were withdrawn from, was taking advantage of a submissive state amongst the Brethren. That's very serious. You would never take advantage of a vulnerable person. If you excommunicate somebody, they're vulnerable immediately because they've lost all their friends, they've lost all their contacts, very prone to suicide and mental health problems. That's the very time that you should be kind and support them, give them a good send-off. So I'm just anxious that some of these big businessmen, like Oliver Wiley and Simon his son, Nick Dewis, Claysons, Garth Christie, are intimidating people who are forcing people to do things. On the face of it, very polite, very courteous, very socially false, but very socially acceptable manner. And yeah, I've met a lot of people who work for Brethren, and fundamentally they try to keep them when they're good, so they look after them. But they can't work out what the real motive is. I can tell you, it's money, it's the love of money. And that's never a good formula for running a business. My whole business program revolves around wholesomeness and making people that work for you whole people so that they can resist narcissism and psychopaths and control from those who lord their possessions and worship materialism. And then there are others who I think have had a bad deal. There was not a nicer family than the Dallows in Leicester. Dick Dallow, lovely man. When his father died, he went round helping businesses, and then he moved to Holland, came back penniless. John Dallow, lovely man, or Barbara, never intended that. They never intended their grandson, Ben Lambert, to be cast out penniless. So another is David Smith, had the biggest, very successful wholesale stationery business in the north of England back in the 70s. Super business. I happen to know they're now left, and Andy, their son, lovely guy, left with very little money. He came to me for a loan just before I was chucked out. He didn't take it in the end, but these good men are being reduced to having to scrabble around for money. And he's managed to reduce me to that, as Bruce Hales and Garth Christie and others. So I simply put an invoice into Garth, supported by my lawyers, saying he should pay me £2.5 for my legal and affiliated expenses that I've had to pay in defending myself against the vicious attacks against me and against my integrity by the church. So I would also like to know how Brian Dewars has fared since I left in 2017. He was being maligned by, I would suggest, his son, who was a friend with Dean Hales. Was Brian treated well at the end? He didn't seem to be to me. Garth was slandering to me when we were in Crete together, I think it was in 2013. So we just need to look into what's going in these churches, and men of truth, hating covetousness, need to look into the affairs of brethren in their localities, so that the needed exposure leads to change and reformation, so that our business are run according to moral principles, not money-led principles at the expense of morals.